anything about the external world, but I can tell you something about the inner world. Because in the inner world, we don't have color. It's the world of the spirit.
What was that? Tell me.
I see the world through the eyes of a child. The world's wonders mesmerize me. Discovered in joy where the sun still shines. Itang Mabone, Mzanzi Africa, rediscovering the sense of wonder. I see all colors, I can see clearly now, the light shines so bright. I feel the spirit of my country, drums echoing the pulse of Mzansi, giving peace, joy, love and hope. Itang Mabone, Mzansi Africa, rediscovering the sense of wonder. I see all colors, I can see clearly now, the light will shine so bright.
Accepting the lie of separate but equal. We opened the Cape Times, February 1972, and there in the middle of the newspaper, an article by an education reporter on the state of black education in Cape Town. 60 kids crammed into previous hospital rooms. The roof leaked, no library, no science lab, no hall, a sandy lot, no fence. So we went to this high school, it was called Fazeka in Philippines. For the next 2 years, we developed friendships with the principal, the vice principal, their wives, some of the teachers, some of the students. We built a hall, put up a fence, made a library, created a science lab. And I said to them, be kind to the stranger, because we were all once strangers. And that was the beginning of Education Without Borders. Maths and literacy are the focus. We're now going from grades 1 to grade 12. There's a meal program, and every single day we've got a surf program. Young men and women who've come out of the same township, they've become our tutors. They blessed us, and we in turn said, we will not forget you. They went like this. What can I say? What can I say? I can just say, that's the story. And I think Education Without Borders is one of those paths, okay? So let's do it. Thank you.
Well, the South African Film Festival, it's been running for 7 years. It is starting to set the world on fire. I believe this chat is called Is There an Elephant in the Room? I'm not sure if that's a rude reference to me, but I'm having an online date now with Schalk, and now I'm gonna attempt the surname.
Go for it.
Here we go. I am talking right now to Schalk Bezuidenhout.
So, based in Australia so far.
Yes. Yeah. Was like close?
It's Bezuidenhout, so just like
Zaydenho. Zayden.
perfect. Thank
Um,
you.
so not to come on too strong in our first date, but I have just watched your stand-up special. You've performed it at the Sydney Comedy Store?
Yeah, it was at the Comedy Store 2 years ago, 2023, and I threw it onto YouTube. And yeah, it's my third time in Australia. I'm in Sydney at the moment. Um, and yeah, but still based in South Africa.
Yeah, I was wondering where you're based because I was watching the special and it is brilliant. Everyone needs
Oh,
to check
thank
it
you.
out. And I was thinking, oh gosh, I don't need more competition. I hope he's not moving here full time.
Every year I consider it more and more, but then I just think like, oh Lord, Australia is just so far from everything. Australia is even far from Perth, and Perth is in Australia.
I'm from Perth, and I believe it is the most isolated city or capital city in the world. And don't they like to let people know? I live in Melbourne now, but don't they
Okay.
love to let people know? Uh,
Yeah,
three countries.
because I've been thinking like if I had to move to Australia, then you obviously like you kind of fantasize, okay, like if I had to move, where would I stay? What would I like? I like the vibe of Bris Vegas,
Yeah,
but like I
good
also
crowd
like
and good crowds.
Sydney, good crowds. And then I thought, but Perth, if I was to go back to South Africa more often, there's an 8 hour direct flight that could be cool, and the time difference is less. But then you think, but then if I have gigs anywhere else in Australia, it's pretty much another 8 hours just to get to the other side.
I
So
yeah,
yeah,
I've been lucky to go to South Africa twice.
okay.
I have only ever been to a town called Hoedspruit though, because I competed on the very first Australian season of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, which was filmed up near Kruger
Yeah,
National Park.
yeah, I know it. My friend worked on it actually. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
She
The
said there
very
was a beautiful guy called Joel on it. So that must be it.
This date is going so well. I loved it though. I loved it. I need to see. What do I need to see? I've only been to Hoedspruit and Johannesburg Airport.
Yeah. Well, Cape Town obviously is like I think maybe the main tourist destination in South Africa. People love Cape Town. I grew up in Johannesburg, but then I went and studied in Cape Town. I lived there for 8 years. If you're a wine lover, Cape Town, of course, like the wine region is amazing. Good reds and good whites.
Yeah, I'll
Um,
take whatever.
so it's like it's a great wine region. And then close to the Stellenbosch wine region is like Franschhoek. So it's all the wine regions are like super within half an hour to an hour distance from each other. So that's really amazing to do. And then I really like I now live in the city of Durban, which people often
Yes.
kind
Oh,
of skip.
that's where my God, I've forgotten his name. My fiance's father is from Durban.
Yeah, yeah. And Durban, a lot of people skip it when they come to South Africa, but it really is cool. That's why I love Brisbane, yeah, because like Durban is similar to Brisbane in the sense that
Oh.
it's quite hot and humid. They don't have cold winters. If they even there's always a joke about like Durban people. Like when I studied in Cape Town at UCT, then that first Cape Town winter, you see all the students who are from Durban. They're like, "What is this?" They're like freaking. They're running to the shop because they literally just they have like one hoodie and that's pretty much it. They don't have like winter jackets and stuff like people from Joburg would have. But Durban is really cool. Like just outside of Durban, like literally a 20-minute, there's like area of Umhlanga. I live just 20 minutes further in Belito. And like in Umhlanga, it's my favorite hotel in the country. It's the Oyster Box Hotel. And I always tell people like it's quite expensive for South Africans to go, but honestly, if you go there with your foreign currency, with your Aussie dollars, with your pounds, whatever, like it's yeah, and it's world class, world class.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was going
yeah.
to warn you about. If you were to move to Perth.
Honeymoon idea for you and your fiance. Oyster Box,
Okay.
very popular honeymoon spot.
Well, I want to tell you about a story that relates to South Africa
Okay.
in my engagement, but I just quickly want to ask you first, what did you study?
I studied acting at the University of Cape Town, and then I sort of fell into stand up. And then I guess at first, kind of, I thought stand up was going to be more of like a hobby, something I do on the side while I'm acting, but
Yeah.
it turned out to be completely other way around. I now do acting on the side when I have a gap.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. I get
yeah.
it. Well, it's like once you get that first hit and that first laugh, it's addictive and it's hard to let go.
Yeah, yeah. And I think stand-ups, we just have so much to say. So like after every show, I think I'm gonna take a year off and just like maybe just try and do more acting gigs. And then as soon as I end a show, I'm like, I already have another show basically in my head.
Yeah.
Like I'm like ready to, and then before you know it, you're just on tour again. So
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
It's nonstop. And because people always ask me about stand up and what it's like, and I always describe it because like my one of my solo shows will be like 8 dot points because some of the stories go for 8 minutes to 15
yeah,
minutes, and I describe it to people, and I actually it'll be interesting to get your response to this because some comics don't love me saying this, and other comics like, yeah, I get it. But I say to everyone, anyone can do stand-up comedy because it's essentially just telling dinner party stories in a way. And when something hilarious has happened to you during the day, and then you go and have dinner with your mates that night and you go, oh, you'll never believe what happened to me today. That's stand-up comedy.
yeah. And like, I mean, I do agree with you because I'm also more of like a storytelling
Yes, you are.
comedian. I also have like I don't do like short, punchy one-liners. But like you can see it. I think a lot of people, everyone has done like a mini stand-up set without even noticing,
Yes.
because like you said, like let's say you're a couple, you've got a funny story about your holiday in Indonesia.
Yes.
You're going to tell it to one couple. The next time you tell it, you're adding a little funny thing there. The next time you tell it, you're exaggerating this one thing just a little bit because you've noticed that it got a laugh the previous time. And I'm like, you are doing that is what stand-up is with every show. You're developing the story. The story gets a little bit funnier, a little bit funnier. After 5 years of telling that story, then that's when you get the couples where, like, let's say the one person will be like, tell the story, because they know the story is so like
Yes.
bulletproof now. You can tell it in any setting and it will be funny. And like you're actually doing every time you tell that story like basically a 5 minute set.
100%. But then when friends get too cocky and they're like, oh, well, then maybe I'll do stand up. I then explain the difference between that
Yeah,
and professional stand-ups is that we just keep churning it out and keep
yeah.
finding these ridiculous stories. And I worry that because yeah, like you, my stand-up's very autobiographical. I worry that I'm now putting myself in ridiculous situations purely to get the stand-up comedy.
Yeah, if my friends say, "Ooh, yeah," if my friends get cocky and they say, "I want to try stand-up comedy," I do the opposite. I go, "You should totally, you should do it."
And then you
Just to
find
get a,
them the
just
worst
to get a,
club.
yeah, just to get a phone call from them a month later, be like, "Why did you do that to me?" I'm like, "Yeah," because it's one of those things that like people will only understand what it's like uh once they've done it. Like you can't explain it to someone. You have to just That's why it's the same with like with like negative comments on social media and stuff, like, and people go, you signed up for this, you're a comedian, like you should have a thick skin. And I'm like, you'd never understand until you in a situation where you have more of like a public persona and like someone you don't know from anywhere just sends you like a shitty message.
Oh yeah, I get it.
Um, I'm like, only then will you really understand, like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. But
Mhm.
Yeah.
100%. And people go like, oh, don't check the comments, don't check the comments. And I'm like, I'm not some American, huge American comedian with these massive teams of people that run my social media for me. It's all me. I can't not check the comments.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
I also bite too. I can't help but respond. I kind of love it.
That's your toxic trait.
That is, oh, well, yeah. There's far more toxic, but yeah, we'll go with that one. What was your first time on stage, and how old were you?
I was, yeah, my first time was pretty much like in my first year of being a student, and I guess it was just that first year of a drama degree is kind of like very theoretical. Only kind of in your third, fourth year you really start getting on stage properly
Yeah.
and doing full plays and stuff. So yeah, I was just kind of like, oh man, this is boring. I don't want to sit in a classroom. I came to study drama. Like I want to be on stage
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And then there was like this opportunity, like some other students were putting together a little comedy show on campus, and I was like, guys, I'm drinking my life away at uni. Like I'm looking for something just a bit more stimulating. So yeah, I was like, I'll give it a shot. I kind of was funny in school, and I wrote a 5 minute set, and then as
Yeah.
a warm up for the campus show, I got 5 minutes at a club. And then yeah, it went pretty well.
That's what,
And
yeah.
then yeah, it's such I would say a very gradual. Um, that is something what I did like about doing stand up back then. It was like you move. It was before social media, so like you really move through the ranks. Like, um,
Yeah.
you started five, then got 10, then you get a support slot, then you start getting paid. Very minimal, but you get paid.
Yeah.
Then you go to headliner, then you get to solo. There was like it was a ladder.
Yes.
Whereas now it's crazy because someone could be like, they've never done a gig,
I
they
know
blow up
exactly
on
what you're gonna
TikTok,
say.
they
Yeah.
blow up on TikTok, and then it's just like they're doing a solo, and it's like you've skipped a few steps, and some of them, I don't know, through like maybe just pure talent or people helping them, but some of them
Believe.
do like go from nothing to a solo and they nail it. And then other people just are like, geez, this is a different ball game doing a live show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated by that when I see someone blow up online, and then I'm almost like, I really want to go along to the gig. I just want to sit up
Yeah.
the back and go, all right, let's see what you got.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the story I was going to tell you was, so I got engaged like 6 months ago, and in Italy,
Okay. Okay.
and
World
on the
traveler.
flight over, I was watching all these I've loved Africa and the wildlife and the culture for so long. I've spent quite a bit of time in Hoodspite. I've had
Yeah.
many a springboky shot, and too many perhaps. And so as we were flying over, I had no idea we were even getting engaged on this trip. I thought it was potentially going to go the other way. And I watched a whole bunch of documentaries about animal poaching, and I got really also, I think your emotions are slightly heightened in the air. I got really like
It's the
passionate.
lack of oxygen. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
just cry easier. Yeah.
Because normally I watch Titanic and cry every time.
I cry
Uh,
so much on a plane. Like it. Yeah.
and every
I
time
like
I'm
it when
like,
they make it dark, the cabin, because then you can
oh,
just watch like the saddest movie and just cry.
sob away. And I'm there. I'm like, this time they're going to miss the iceberg. No. Anyway, it's stuck in my mind, these animal poaching videos and how awful it is. So on the second last night in Italy, my partner Jack proposed, and he said, "You're gonna be so impressed with me. I played it so cool." He said, "Will you marry me?" And I think he got to the word marry, and that's when I screamed, "Yes!" and like forced the ring onto my finger. And then we were with like four friends. I went silent for an hour and just stared at my ring like Gollum. And then the first thing that came out of my mouth, an hour post proposal, was, "We have to save the elephants."
That's going to
And
be
that is,
like your
that's
married
what,
couple, like, a lot of married couples have this shared goal
yeah,
that they kind of take on the world in some way. So that's going to be your guys's.
it's my new passion in life, the elephants. I love them. I'm like the Greta Thunberg for elephants. I'm gonna single-handedly save them.
So what is, do you have any sort of, what's the game plan for saving the
I have
elephant?
plans to get over and spend more time there with the wildlife and I think, yeah, hopefully Cape Town, especially because you've done the hard sell and the wine, so that's really helped.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've because I've been so lucky to spend time there and see them all, but it is just it's such a magical place. Also, South Africa is pumping out so many great comedians. What's that about?
Yeah, well, I mean, Trevor Noah, obviously everyone knows him. He really did open the floodgates
And he's
for that.
lovely. He's so
Yeah, he's
nice.
great. Yeah, and like I've been lucky enough to be his opening act a bunch of times, and he loves also giving opportunities to younger comics and stuff. And I think South Africa is one of those places, like a lot of South African comedians, like you talk about South Africa, I wouldn't say our comedy then like could really translate overseas. It was very locally based, but that is one of the cool things about South Africa. It's so multicultural that there's so much to talk about just in our country, like
Yeah.
our politics. I mean, endless comedy because obviously it is a circus. Um, and then like different cultures and the differences between cultures, like you can talk about it for ages. And then I think the first time Trevor went over, people were like, yeah, what's he going to talk about? He can't talk about Jacob Zuma or whoever the president is, that he can't talk about the political parties. And then he just went there and spoke about their things. And then I
Yeah.
think South African comedians are like, oh yeah, well, that's kind of your job as a comedian, is be like, okay, I'm now in Australia. I can't talk about South African things because the Aussies won't get it. What, is like you create. So
Yes.
go there, talk about them. Go there, talk about them. And that is honestly his superpower, Trevor. Like he can arrive in a city, take it in, like just from the trip from the airport to the show, and already on stage, he's like got a half an hour's material about their country, their cities. Like I've noticed your taxis, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
and he just takes it in so quickly. And then yeah, and I think it also just was inspirational, like for me and a bunch of other people to be like, yeah, we don't have to limit ourselves to South Africa. Um, you know, and that for long was the problem with South African film. Not
Mm.
the problem with the film, it was more it was a bigger problem in terms of like South Africans, our attitude about ourselves. I think we had a bit of a feeling sorry for ourselves attitude, like a film would come out, South African film, and then it would be like, it's good, yeah, it's really good for South African film, or he's good
Yeah.
for a South African comedian. And then the attitude started shifting to like, guys, it shouldn't be good for South African film. It should just be a good film. And it's a good film if it's like of a world class standard. And then if you say like, let's just make a good South African film, you're already aiming so low because you just go like, let's just pass the most
Yeah.
basic standard, but it shouldn't be, and then eventually it got to a point where like, no, this film is, especially when like Tutsi won the Oscar and stuff, we became like, okay, cool. It's not just, we don't have to settle for, oh, it's good for South African film. It can just be a good film, full stop,
Yeah.
Like our actors, I mean, I'm always blown away by South African actors, and there's actors who only work in Afrikaans, and then I think to myself, oh my word, like the world's never going to see actually how brilliant
Yeah.
this actor is because they do mostly Afrikaans acting. And then for me, it was also like with my comedy, I like never want to be oh yeah, he's good for South African comedian. That's just like I
Yes.
want to get on a lineup and with an Aussie, a Brit, an American, and I don't necessarily want to be the funniest on the night. I just want people to go, he was as good as the other guys. He's on par,
Oh
you know.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love I because the kind of the traditional route for an Australian comedian is to go to the UK, and I went to the US, and I was very lucky. I got to tour for several years as Joan Rivers support act. So
Oh
that was
wow.
yeah, it was the greatest honor of my life, and that's how I really cut my teeth.
That's
But then
cool.
I loved getting on lineups at, the Comedy Cellar in New York and seeing these, crazy lineups of huge American comedians, and I'm the unknown Australian, and just being like, bring it
Yeah,
on.
yeah, exactly. And like we get so brainwashed. And I've spoke to a Aussie comic about it the other day because the same happened here. Like, because it would happen often in South Africa that we hear like, oh, this weekend at Cape Town Comedy Club, there's a comic from New York who's gonna perform. So we would
Yeah,
flood there
of
as the
course.
local acts because you're like, oh, it's a comic from New York, and then you kind of have this perception that like all comics from New York are brilliant. You forget it's a city like any other city, the same as like how Sydney or Melbourne or Johannesburg or Cape Town will have their comedians and they'll have their good comedians and their bad comedians. But we get so brainwashed by like, he's from New York. And then this guy will come on stage and like die on his ass, like not get any laughs. And then we like, but he's got the accent. So
Yeah.
and then sometimes for the first 5 minutes, people will just laugh because like the accent makes you feel like this guy's brilliant
Yeah, you
because
get
it
a
has
free
that
you
like
get like a free 5 minutes, like a grace
yeah.
period.
And then people start going, he's not funny. And the same happened the other day here in Sydney where like this American guy went on stage and everyone was like, oh, okay, cool, and like all the comics are watching. The audience are like, wow,
Yeah.
New York, New York, and then he was like not good. And then I was speak, and then an Aussie comic said to me afterwards, like people just hear the accent and they go crazy and they think like this guy must be brilliant just because he's got an American accent. And I was like, dude, that's so funny because in South Africa it's the same. Someone's just got the accent and you're like, and then you realize like in Australia, in South Africa, like we don't have to kind of hold back like, oh, America, that's the mecca for entertainment, for comedy, for film, for
Yeah.
everything. Like we are as good, but I think the way the world works, we've just from youth been conditioned to like America. That is
Oh,
the that is
absolutely.
the golden.
Yeah.
Yeah,
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 and also we also know that we write our shows, and churn them out. They do 20 minutes for 10 years and hone that
yeah,
20 minutes. And they can't. I like American comic mates of mine. Like, you write a new hour every year. I'm like, yeah, it's what we do.
yeah, yeah.
So are you hoping for the Ursula Carlson success down here in Australia? Because I certainly am. I know she's South African originally, via New Zealand. I mean, she's checking off a few countries.
Yeah.
She's the biggest comic in Australasia at the moment.
Yeah, so I think she only started comedy in New Zealand. So
Yeah.
I think she's would be considered more New Zealand comic,
Yeah.
just because she came up the ranks there. Um, yeah, no, she just did a movie with I think Amy Schumer, and
Yeah.
she's breaking into Hollywood, and yeah, I am looking for just my goal was stand up because people always like, what's the goal? Is it to win an Oscar? Is it to do the Daily Show? Is it to And I'm like, I think a lot of these people, like, I don't think Trevor Noah, when he was a child, was like, I want the Daily Show. It's just
Nah.
you just graft and you just try and always be the best you can, the funniest you can, and these opportunities come along and you end up somewhere. Like he ended up at the Daily Show and he's like, wow, I never would have
Yeah.
thought the Daily Show. Obviously, you're going to grab the opportunities when they come along. So I'm always just like, I don't have a plan because you can't really have a plan. You can't email Hollywood and be like,
Yeah.
notice me,
Yeah.
and
Hi.
it might not be like Hollywood that notices you. You might get a great opportunity like on the BBC and you might blow up in England. And it's like, you can't control who sees you and when and who's gonna give you an opportunity. And same with like the movies I've done in my life. One film I'm like very proud of is this film called Kanari. It's an Afrikaans film, and I was never like, I didn't email them to be like, it's a way more natural process. I did a gig, the director was there, saw me do stand up. He was like, "Hey, I've got this film
Yeah.
coming up. Would you like to audition?" Did my audition, and it's like one of the best projects I've ever done. But it's not like I said a year before I want to do that movie because
Yes.
the movie doesn't even exist in your mind. It's not even a. So I just always say to people like I don't have like a specific plan. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing to the best of my ability and like see how big I can take this thing. Whether it's
Yeah.
becoming big in Australia, big in America, big, wherever. Like I just want to see where will it end.
Oh yeah, yeah. The situations I've ended up in and the places I've been and the gigs I've done, I'm like, how did I get here? And I think sometimes people think with me, I've got like some ulterior motive for doing stand-up. I'm like, no, I genuinely do it because I love making people laugh. And it's
Hmm.
also my only skill. But I love making people laugh. It is the greatest
And
joy.
conservation soon.
And
Conservation.
saving the elephants, of course. I am an angel. Comedy and elephants. Yeah, they go hand in hand.
Um, you'd so elephants, huge ish, elephant poaching, yeah, bad
Yeah,
issue.
I
But
want to. Mate, I don't know if I should say it on here, but I really want them to let me go out with the anti-poachers one night because I think I'd be quite good. Get out a bit of rage, you know?
yeah, do you have camo?
Yeah. No, I don't.
Yeah, that's the
But I
first step.
can. I will invest. Will invest. Happy to.
Uh, yeah, I think that the biggest in terms of like brink of extinction is there are a lot of elephants in South Africa. I don't think they're like, if I speak under correction, but they're not endangered. Whereas the rhinos,
Rhinos, yeah.
that's the big one. Elephants get poached for their tusks, which is, I think, yeah, ivory. But the rhinos get poached for the horns, which there's for to be sold for like Chinese medicine and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So that's why you will see in South Africa a lot of rhinos that the people will already from the
Yeah.
lodge or whatever dehorn them to make it less attractive, which sucks, because like you see a rhino, then you're on a game drive, you see a rhino, and it's one of the cool things about a rhino is like seeing that like epic horn, and then people will be like, why does it not? The tourists will always ask like, why does this rhino not have a horn? And it's kind of like, yeah, we had to cut it off to make it less attractive to
Yeah. Keep it safe.
poachers. So yeah, rhino poaching, just for the people watching this, that's the main big poaching issue in
Yeah.
South Africa, unfortunately, and they're in big trouble. The
Yeah,
species.
I mean my facts will probably be completely wrong, but I think there's like only a couple of thousand or less than a couple of thousand rhinos. Like,
Yeah,
because when
it's
I was
crazy.
in Hoots, where I was staying in Hootsborough, I actually had a rhino sanctuary on site, and it was 10 years ago, and as I said, I had a lot of springboky shots, so I don't remember everything. Um, great, but I remember them saying that the numbers are just awful, and it's just so sad and so evil.
Yeah, I know, and it's all money and yeah.
Yeah,
It's at a point now where a lot of lodges won't they don't disclose how many rhinos they have. It's become like if you've got a rhino, they keep it so top secret. because they just try to protect it. And often it's so hard because often, like if the money's right, it becomes an inside job, just for the right amount of money. Most people will. Can we stop talking about this? It's very
Yes. Yeah.
depressing.
Yeah. I know. I know. People are the
Watch the
worst.
documentaries at the SAFF Film Festival in Sydney. There's great documentaries on it. Watch
I know.
that.
I'm excited to see some of the um films at the festival. I'm told that it's like the best one yet.
Yeah, yeah, and apparently this year, great conservation documentaries, conservation films.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
I might get some of those for the plane for the next time I travel overseas.
yeah, definitely download them. Get the downloadable link.
Yeah, yeah, and get the tears going. Because so you've been working a lot in Australia. What I like asking people this question. What do here we go. There is a film at the festival called Diary of an Elephant. Oh, I do have a link to watch that. And my manager watched it and said it's like a real tearjerker. So yeah, that might be tonight's viewing. But I know I do like to ask people, so what does what do you reckon we do better in Australia? What do you reckon you do better in South Africa?
Um, hmm. Well, I think Australia, it's obviously like better run, probably in terms of like safety and everything works. But I found out last year that the whole of Australia, which is a continent, I think we forget that it's a country, but it's also a continent,
Yeah.
has like 26 million people. And then I was like, oh yeah, no wonder everything works. If we were 26 million people in South Africa, things would also be a lot easier to manage it because we like on 60 million, if it's not more.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
more than double the people in a country that's, she's not even half the size. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I think the Northern Territory in Australia is like the size of South Africa. So,
Oh wow.
um, so I think also like, yeah, we just so many people. Obviously, there's also corruption and stuff, but I mean, I think just things would work better if we were also 26 million people. But I'm trying to think. Well, the food is good, yeah. That is like obviously a thing because the food in South Africa is epic. Especially like
Oh,
our
so good.
meat. Our meat obviously is
Yes, I'm a
like
real carnivore.
and yeah, our booze, like our wine is world class. That's
Yeah.
what I cannot stress to people enough, like how far you'll get with your currency in South Africa. Like I don't think people realize. Like you can't afford in Australia, you won't be able to afford that level of luxury, food, wine.
Yeah.
Like just going there with your currency, you immediately are like in 3 levels higher than what you
Yes.
would be in, like whatever you can afford. Yeah, that same amount can afford you like the 5-star version of
Yeah.
what you can. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and like I was saying in my show last night that, buying property, I know in Sydney it's like crazy, like it's unaffordable, blah, blah. Um, but
Yeah.
I mean, I always say like if Australians had to really see the prices of property in South Africa, they'd be like, I'll fight those criminals off myself. Like if I have to, if crime is the only thing that's hindering me from going, I'll fight the crime. But like to have that, I mean, a friend of mine, the comedian Daniel Muggleton, he
Yes.
told me the other day that he bought a place here for $2 million. Or they like got a home loan for $2 million, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow, that's cool. And I said, is it a nice place? And he's like, no, it needs a lot of work. And I'm like,
Yeah.
$2 million. And then I converted it to my currency, and I said to him, take a look at this. And I put into like a property website in South Africa 24 million rand, which is $2 million. And I was like, this is what you can get for 2 million Aussie dollars in South Africa. And like his jaw dropped to the floor. Like we're talking like the biggest mansions in the
Oh,
fanciest security estates.
they're incredible. I think there was like one season of like I'm sure it was the Real Housewives of Johannesburg
Yeah.
or something like that, and I was like, get me there right now. This is
Like
incredible.
a 10 million rand house in South Africa. I mean, that you're talking quite a serious house. Like you're talking something very nice. And that's not even a million Aussie dollars. And I don't think in Sydney or in Melbourne, $1 million is going to get you really,
No,
it,
that's a
it
week's
might get
rent.
you a small apartment.
What about
So, yeah.
what about because I'm from Perth but live in Melbourne and we're obsessed with our coffee. Coffee. Let's talk coffee. South African coffee versus Australian coffee because obviously Australians we pride ourselves on our coffee.
Yeah, Cape Town is amazing coffee shops. Joburg as well. I don't like, I like, my toxic trait is I like a really shitty cup of coffee. Like I don't like
Like an
like I
instant
find the
or a
fancy
pod, what are we
coffee.
talking?
So like my favorite coffee, I say shitty, but like to me it's good. But
Yeah.
like there's like from the fancy coffee shops in Melbourne, like especially if they get too experimental. They're like if there's
Oh,
hints of
deconstructed.
raspberry, and I'm like, I don't want a raspberry in my coffee. Like I don't want a fruity coffee. And they're so strong, like you basically have to drink it on the toilet.
They
But like my
really are.
favorite coffee, like, is just like a 7-Eleven coffee. To me, that's a good coffee. It's just like not pretentious. It's just coffee with some milk.
Yeah. If it's
To me, that's a
caffeinated,
good
I'll
coffee.
take it. I'll take it.
In South Africa, there's a restaurant called Wimpy, which it's a chain restaurant. It's really nothing fancy. Like I love just in the morning getting a Wimpy coffee. They still serve it like the machines where it's like they brew a big
Oh,
thing.
I love that.
Just a filter coffee. And you don't get that. You don't get like a filter or like, I mean, you've spent a lot of time in America, like those American diners where it's just from the pot.
I'd prefer that than their like jumbo coffees or their or their their pumpkin spice lattes. And it's like that's so much milk. I can't have that much milk inside me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like just like like you see classic American diner, the lady comes to that for me is a good cup of coffee, just like in a pot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
does the job. Now
Fancier it is, the worse it is for me.
yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
As comics, we have to do the traditional comic back and forth. As I'm sure it's the same in the South African comedy scene, plus you spend a lot of time here. Backstage at comedy gigs, we love to talk about our horror stories, our worst gigs. If it's not too triggering. Do you have any?
Yeah, I've got a pretty good one. Like, I'll do the shortest version, but like I was less than a year into stand-up comedy, and then I kind of had best of both worlds because I'm from Johannesburg, so I would and I was like starting to get into the Cape Town scene, but then holidays go back to my parents and then do Joburg scene.
Yeah.
So I had sort of like both main comedy scenes. I was playing on both of them, and then I'd never had a paid gig before at that point. And this guy calls me up and he's like, I've got a paying gig. It paid way more than a club gig would pay. And I
Mhm.
was like, yes, oh my
We love
word,
those gigs.
fantastic. Yeah. And I had to do 40 minutes, which I didn't have at that point. I said, I can't do 40. I don't have 40 minutes. Can I
Yeah,
do 20 minutes? You can give me half the money for half the time.
yeah,
He
yeah.
said, yeah, 20 minutes is fine. I also didn't really have 20 minutes. I had 10 minutes, but I thought I'll just have to stretch this 10 minutes and make it 20 because
Yeah, you
like
can do
I
a bit
have
of
to make
crowd
this
work, a
money.
bit of where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah, exactly. And then yeah, and like every laugh, I'll just sit in it that extra 2 seconds
Yeah, have a
till the
sip of
last
water.
person has spoken. And then I get to the gig, and my dad came with me because he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna join you for this gig." And then we get there and it's a strip club,
Oh,
but the
awesome.
gig was
Right.
like middle of the day, 2 p.m. on a Friday.
Oh, a day gig?
Day gig in a strip club, no illusion of night because it's like an old house that they had turned into a strip club. So I mean, there's like the lights shining in through the sliding doors. There's no like, doesn't even create the illusion of night like a casino would. And it was literally like stripper, but I mean, strippers actually downgrading what those ladies did. They were like exotic dancers. They had
It's kind
routines.
of like what we do anyway
Yeah,
as stand-up comics.
yeah, they had routines.
Yes.
It wasn't just like take off my clothes.
Yeah.
It was like choreography, but it was literally like exotic dancer, me, exotic dancer. So, and they were like probably besides my dad who was sitting in the back, there was like three men in the audience.
Wow.
And yeah, the the MC just introduced me. There was no like, sorry man, this is gonna be a bit tough, or it was just kind of like threw me to the sharks.
Yeah, or no, like
Um,
build up, like, okay, it's a bit of a change of pace here.
yeah, it was just like round of applause for Mandy. Now welcome on stage, Schalk Bezuidenhout. And I walked on, and it was just like the worst death. When you're dying so hard, like it almost becomes laughable. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you kind of like, I wish there was a documentary team here right now to film this because it's too good to be true or too bad to be true, I guess.
Yeah,
Like people won't
yeah.
believe if I tell people the story that they're like, was it really that bad? I'm like, it was bad. And the redeeming part of the story is that I always say like it showed me that like performers are performers no matter what because the ladies who were dancing, like you just said, at the end of the day, they're also performers just like us. They just
Yeah,
do a different. We do
yeah,
comedy, they do a different medium,
yeah.
and at the end of the day, they know what it's like to just have a bad gig. And because I was getting no laughs, and there were only three men, and there were way more dancers than men. So they basically came to save me,
Oh,
and they all came forward. And now you must see this image because like they're all in lingerie. So it's just like eight ladies in bras and panties come and sit right in the front. Because I was also really young at the time. I was 19. So it must have also looked even more sad because it's just like this young kid who can't even like
it is dad.
you don't yeah, and my dad's in the back and like at that age you can't handle a death. Like yeah, they could probably see me starting to like shake and panic and be like, fuck, this is so
Oh
bad.
yeah, 19. Yeah.
And they kind of like came and sat and they like laughed at every joke, even though a lot of it probably wasn't great, but they like kind of fake laughed.
They got it.
And I think at some point I said, oh, I don't remember what's next. And they're like, come on, you can do this. Well, you're doing great. You're doing great. It was so special. It was like actually like quite motherly, the way they were like, it was like your aunties supporting you through the thing.
Yes.
And yeah, and at the end, they all jumped up, gave me a massive round of applause. But yeah,
Oh,
that
legends.
by far was gig. What I always say to people, what I did like about it is that I was like, okay, I've got it out of the way, my worst gig. Like I don't have to
Mhm.
worry about like that my worst gig is still to come because I knew in that moment like it will never be this bad again. Never.
Yeah,
It can't be this bad ever again.
absolutely. And also, like so many comics say, you learn 10 times more from a bad gig than you do
Yeah.
a good one.
And you?
Well, I was just going to ask, are you still in touch with Mandy, the exotic dancer? Are you,
No, that place got raided by the police. So
great, great.
yeah. I don't know if she's in I don't know if she was above I don't know if she had a license or whatever you need to do what she was doing, but yeah.
Um, well, I've had some horrors. Just one that's like a real cringy, embarrassing one. Just after I left South Africa the first time, having filmed I'm a Celebrity, having spent 6 weeks in the African jungle, as we call it here, which I know is not technically jungle, but you know, anything to sell a TV show. I was on the show. Well, when I got off the show, my profile had really risen. So I was playing these huge venues throughout Australia, and I was 24. So I was so up myself. And I just thought I was like the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then I went and did my first and only Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And I was getting
Edinburgh
crowds of
can
like,
break you, eh? Edinburgh can really break you.
I've never been back. I've never been back. Montreal, I've done lots of times, and I've had some weird ones there. But Edinburgh, or I don't even know if I could go as a tourist. So the season of I'm a Celebrity that I did was won by the English cricket captain Freddie Flintoff. And so he spent 6 weeks in Africa with me, thinking I'm this like huge rock star, Australian worldwide comedian. Then he came to my show in Edinburgh one night.
Oh
This
no.
superstar who's getting papped on the way in. He was part of a crowd of four, he and his wife, and then two others who were just like hating it. And not only was he part of a crowd of four thinking, hang on, this guy was meant to be like a superstar, I'm on stage doing material about the show. So I'm on stage doing material about him. It was just the most cringe, awful. I still like tense up thinking about it.
Last year there were a lot of in Edinburgh there were a lot of so I've done like five. I'm at a point now where I'm like
Yeah,
I
you've
don't
broken it.
not I'm still doing like quite average compared to a lot of the acts, but I'm not getting crowds of like four anymore.
Yeah.
Um
Committed.
yeah, but yeah, you see these Aussie comics come and now like I just a few months before did Melbourne, and some of them had been like nominated for best show, and
Wow.
in the artist bar they like people like flock around them, and then they're like, oh, it's my first Edinburgh this year, and then I don't want to be that guy that's going to be like, just prepare yourself, because I'm like, you don't know, like someone could go to Edinburgh for the first time and kind of the word of mouth goes crazy.
Yeah.
Like
And don't we love those people?
it's like probably not, but I don't want to be the one to be like, just lower your expectations. But I'm like, you know what? What's gonna happen happens. And then you see them like a week into Edinburgh, like, how's your festival going? They're like,
Yeah.
I've had 10 people a night. And I'm like, it is a shock because my first Edinburgh was the same. Like, it wasn't like I was superstar status in South Africa selling out massive venues, but I mean, I could put on a show and sell the tickets, even if it was like in a 200 seater or 300 seater. But I mean, I'd be getting, selfies at the airport, like at least,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
people recognized me. And then going to your first Edinburgh I
Yeah.
always say to people like it's a lot harder doing Edinburgh if you are someone in your own country because you
Yeah.
go the fall down to that humbleness is
It's
just
so humbling.
but at the same time I'm like, what a cool experience to get humbled that like because you meet a lot of people in life that you're like, you need an Edinburgh in your life. You need to get humbled.
Yeah, I think I probably needed an Edinburgh. I was getting a bit too big for my boots.
Yeah, but I mean yeah. The most humbling experience is Edinburgh, definitely.
Oh my gosh. Well, you have been a delight. Your stand-up is
Thanks, Joel.
fantastic, by the way. Like it
Thank
really
you very
is
much.
so funny. And I'm one of those comics that I love performing stand-up. It's not that I don't love watching it, But if I'm at home, I'm not going to put on a special. I'm going to put on Handmaid's Tale or something really dark because I just get to see enough comedy. But yeah, I watched your special and was blown away. And
Thank you.
yeah, so thank you. Thanks for the online day. Thanks for the chat. And I'm pumped for the South African Film Festival. And
Yeah.
also they're raising money for Education Without Borders, which is
Mm.
such a fantastic cause. And people need to donate.
Yeah, and like in South Africa, you know, just obviously I've lived there my whole life, and like all the problems that we have, and we do obviously have a lot of problems, like almost all of them can be solved with education.
Yep.
Like if someone's educated, like they can further that, make money. Oopsie. You know, unemployment is probably one of our biggest issues, and poverty, and all of that can be solved with education. So it's, yeah, super important.
Yeah, and with me moving there, I think you've done the hard sell. I'm doing it. I'm moving to a winery in Cape Town and living out my days with the elephants and the rhinos.
That sounds like a life. That
Yeah.
sounds like a life worth living.
Yeah, I can't wait. Thank you so much, Schalk. You
Thanks,
are
man.
and yeah, enjoy. You're currently in Sydney.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
enjoy
yeah.
the rest of your time.
Thank
Your
you.
rest of time here.
Cool.